Hi, you guys. It's Mrs. Leuse. It's 9:30. We just did our morning Zoom and activities, and now it is 9:30. You guys are doing your math book lesson 5, chapter 1. You're watching my YouTube video right now, and you're going to complete the pages that I assign in just a moment. So you have until 10 o'clock if you are with me in Group A. If you're not with me, you have until 10 o'clock, and then you're going to go do your station. I'm going to say that one more time just so you know, because I know this is all new for us as we get used to this. At 10 o'clock, you're going to stop your math book work and go join me if you're Group A. If you're not Group A for math stations, you're going to go see what your assignment is down here for math station tasks. All right? Otherwise, right now, we are going to do our lesson 5 math book lesson. Here we go. So get your math book out, have a pencil ready to go. All right, you guys. So we are on page 37, which is our lesson 5, chapter 1. So I'm going to go through this with you, and then I'll do a couple with you as well, give you a couple to do on your own, and that'll be it. Here we go. So we're going to do some more understanding place value by using models and shading. So it says use the models to describe the relationship between the value of the digits in the decimal and their place value position. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. Shade the model to show this decimal. This decimal is 0.77, but we say it in 5th grade as 77 hundredths. So let's write that in for the word form. 77 hundredths. Why is it hundredths? Because this 7 is sitting in the hundredths place. So here it is in word form, 77 hundredths. Here it is in standard form. But now they want me to go shade it. So if I think about 77 hundredths, that's saying I have 77 out of 100. Notice I have 100 squares here. I need to go ahead and shade 77 of them. So here's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70. But it was 77, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. So I shaded 77 out of 100. Okay, now we're going to make sure that we understand where this decimal is on a place value chart. So match the decimal first, which is right here. And then after the decimal, I have a 7 in the tenths and then a 7 in the hundredths. And that's all you do. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the relationship between these two 7s. The value of the digit 7 that's in the tenths place, which is right here, is 7 tenths, which is 0.7, or we can write it in word form, 7 tenths. So when I look at this digit, we say that this digit is 7 tenths. What about the digit in the hundredths place? Well, this is 7 hundredths. So let's write that in word form. So it looks like this by itself, just a 7 in the hundredths, or I can say it's worth 7 hundredths, okay? We're going to figure out, too, what's the difference between these two. Is one of them bigger than the other one? We can find that out by dividing 7 tenths divided by 7 hundredths, okay? So I know you probably don't have a calculator at home. If you do, you could go grab it for this one activity. You don't need to go ahead and do long division because we haven't done that yet in 5th grade. But if I do 7 tenths divided by 7 hundredths, I get 10. That is so interesting, you guys. A decimal divided by a decimal is giving me a 10. So the value of the digit that's in the tenths place, which is right here, that means it's 10 times bigger than the digit that's in the hundredths place. And it goes the same way. So let me explain that a little bit. This is probably one of the hardest lessons out of chapter 1. So if it's still confusing, don't be hard on yourself. And you could always come to office hours and I can help explain it a little bit more. Okay, so again, This 7 is bigger than this 7. This 7 is in the 10th spot. This 7 is in the 100th spot. As I go down the chart, each digit has a smaller value because we're working with decimals. So if I say that the digit in the tenths place is bigger than the digit in the hundredths, it will always be true. This is worth more than this. Just like over here, if I had a digit in the tens place, it's bigger than the digit in the ones place because this is ones while this is tens. Tens is bigger. So I can always say that the digit to the left is always going to be 10 times as much. This 7 is 10 times bigger than this 7. And then the opposite way, I could say that this 7 is smaller, but we're going to say that it's 1/10. It's 1/10 as much as this one. That's because it's smaller and we're working with decimals. And remember, when we work with decimals, we represent it as fractions. Okay, so if it's still confusing, don't stress out. Let's do some more practice with it. So go ahead and turn your page. I want to do page 39. I'm going to do number 5 and number 7 with you. And then your assignment today before math stations is to do 6 and 8, and that's it. If you're still having trouble after this, you can come to me at virtual office hours and I will help you. All right, let's go ahead and do number 5. The value of the digit in the tenths place is how much times bigger than the digit in the hundredths? Well, first we got to figure out what's our decimal. So we're working backwards. So this model has 100 squares, and let's figure out how many were shaded. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 55 out of 100 were shaded. How do we turn that into a decimal? Read the fraction out loud. I have 55 hundredths. So I have a decimal, and then I have 55 hundredths. Make sure this 5 is sitting in the hundredths place because it's out of 100. 55 hundredths. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to compare. Which digit is 10 times bigger than the other digit? This 5 is 10 times bigger than this 5. We're just going to write that in. Again, this 5 is 10 times bigger than this 5 because it's one place above it. Every time, that's what it'll be. All right? It'll always be 10 times bigger as you move up the place value chart. The opposite is when you move down to the right, it gets smaller, and that's where you write it 1/10 as much. All right, so let's see an example of that. So you're going to do 6 on your own. I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to have you do 6 and 7 on your own. I'm going to do 8 so that I can do the other example. Okay, so let's go ahead and count. Notice that these boxes are in 3D. That's because it's out of 1,000. So now we have numbers out of 1,000. I'm going to do number 8, and then when we're done, you're going to do 6 and 7 on your own. Okay, so out of 1,000, how many are shaded? 10, 20, 30, 40. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 44 out of 1,000. So how do you read this fraction? 44 thousandths. So how do I write that as a decimal? Well, this 4 has to be sitting in the thousandths place. So if I do that, the 4 is in the thousandths. This 4 would come next in the hundredths, and then that means I have a 0 in the tenths. Because now if I read this decimal out loud, this reads 44 thousandths because this 4 is sitting in the thousandths place. So be very careful when you write that down. Okay, now we're going to compare these two digits. The value of the digit in the hundredths place is how many times bigger than the digit in the thousands? It's 10 times bigger. All right, you guys, go do 6 and 7. And then remember, you need to stop by 10 o'clock to go do math stations, whether you're with me or on your own. If you still need help with this, come to my virtual office hours today and I will help you.